Welcome back. Early voting in the primaries is just a month and a half away, and to get you ready, today we're speaking with Representative Vikki Goodwin, a Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Representative Goodwin, welcome to Capitol tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Representative, so let's just start off with this question. A Democrat hasn't been elected Lieutenant Governor of the state since Bob Bullock in the last century. There's museums named after him now. So how do you plan to change that decades-long trend?
Well, I think it is time for change. I think people recognize that things aren't going well. Our public school system is in a shambles. Our healthcare system is abysmal. You know, on the campaign trail, almost every day I hear from someone who says, my insurance costs have gone up so much I don't know if I can renew. And so people are really concerned about day-to-day issues, not being able to afford things. And so I think affordability is a huge issue.
That's insurance costs for their homes?
For their health insurance.
Their health insurance, I see.
Yeah. A lot of small business owners that I've talked to recently, and you know, I'm in the same boat. Prior to being a legislator, I was a small business owner, still am, and I remember every year insurance costs going up, but they've really gone up exponentially recently. And so a lot of people feel like they just can't afford it anymore. Lots of issues. The Republicans have been in charge for 30 years. Things aren't getting fixed. It seems like they aren't coming up with solutions. And now they want to provide even, get rid of property taxes. Well, how are you going to fund our schools? A lot of concern out there about our schools.
Let's get back to that, but I do want to hear, you're sort of mentioning the 30-year rule of Republicans in the state. How is your vision for Texas different from our current Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, and what is the clearest example of contrast in policy?
There's such a huge difference. I mean, first of all, schools. Dan Patrick and the governor just passed this voucher plan, which starts out at $1 billion, but will grow exponentially from there. My plan would be no dollars to private schools, no public dollars to private schools. We need to fund our public schools and support them and make sure that we are allowing our teachers the ability to teach in the classroom. There's a lot of issues around our public schools that need to be addressed. That's one of my high priorities. But
things that you mentioned, which is the difference between you and Lieutenant Governor Patrick, which is school vouchers and your feelings on school vouchers. The law has already passed, though, so that's already in place, and they will be sending that money towards these school voucher accounts. You're saying no more of that. How do you get that done? You have to pass legislation.
Well, it's pretty simple. It's in the budget. Do we fund it or do we not? If you have $0 in the budget, well, you don't have a voucher program anymore. So it's really the Lieutenant Governor has the ability to say, I'm not going to pass a budget that includes money for that item.
That, I guess, that's an interesting approach. Let's talk about fully funding public schools, because it's one of the issues that you've raised. What changes, if anything, would you like to implement if you were elected Lieutenant Governor? You talked about school vouchers, of course, but there's a whole school funding formula.
Absolutely. So we have made it so incredibly complex that the average person has no idea how the school funding works. I sat on an appropriations committee this session, and we made it even more complicated this session. So we already have a basic allotment, which is the basic amount that every student gets, and then we build upon that. If they're low socioeconomic, they get an extra weight. If they have a learning disability or a special need, they get extra weight. Well, this time we added something really cute called the ABC, the allotment for basic costs. And we will simplify it. We will make it a simple formula that people can understand. We will increase the basic allotment, and that right there means more money from the state and less from local property taxpayers.
And is that something that you would commit to, say a percentage or a dollar amount that you would commit to as Lieutenant Governor?
I believe it should be a 50-50 split between state and local. And I believe that we need to catch up to inflation, which means going up to $7,500 per student as the basic allotment.
All right. State Representative Vikki Goodwin, thank you so much for stopping by. She's a candidate for Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, James.